So you can't see this, but hopefully you can hear it. Behind every Boise State Public Radio podcast is a team working hard to bring you stories that matter. So if you value podcasts like this one, please support them. Hit donate at boisestatepublicradio.org. Thanks.
From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Samantha Wright, filling in for Jim Gaudette. This is Idaho Matters. Idaho Matters was honored by the Idaho Press Club with 5 awards, including Best News Talk Show in Idaho, Best Election Report of 2025, and we picked up an award for use of sound for our story last November about a local bookstore that was using art to survive, and Light Feature Report for our peek behind the scenes at a local lavender farm in Boise. We were also honored with an award for Best Audio Interview for our talk with NPR's Mary Louise Kelly. And we wanted to share that interview again, so let's take a listen. From the studios of Boise State Public Radio, I'm Samantha Wright, filling in for Jim Gaudette. This is Idaho Matters. While she was hosting All Things Considered, Mary Louise Kelly wrote a book titled It Goes So Fast, The Year of No Do-Overs. And if you've ever struggled with work-life balance, especially as a parent, you'll identify with her struggles while parenting and working for NPR. The book turned into a bestseller. It's coming out in paperback, and we wanted to sit down with her to talk about the book and this very personal chapter of her life. Let's jump right in. And I want to say, you cover a lot of ground in this book, but I really want to start with the chapter about your son's dog, Shadow.
Yes.
I know. I love the way your son campaigned to get this dog. He wrote a letter to you and your husband. And then can you talk about what he said when people asked him what he wanted for Christmas? Because I think this whole chapter about the dog and about you and parenting is fantastic. But I loved how he tried to get the dog with this question, what do you want for Christmas? Because
what do you want for Christmas? What do you want for your birthday? And he would, for years, starting when he was quite young, my younger son Alexander would give us, whoever was asking, a mournful look and say, well, what I really want is something I can never have because my parents will never let me have it. And so I know that I'm just doomed to unhappiness, but it's okay. It's for the best of the family. Anyway, what do you want for Christmas? I kind of look at him and think, oh my God, I'm going to lose this battle, am I not? And it took him a few years of campaigning along those lines. And he finally prevailed. And Shadow, the friendly, allegedly miniature Bernedoodle, although he weighs 65 pounds, came to join our family when Alexander was 10 years old.
Okay. Part of the reason I love this chapter is you have this bit in there about, I can't think of another relationship in one's life where you actively root for the other person to outgrow you. And you were talking about your kids.
Yeah. That's the defining relationship of parent and child, right? You kind of can't wait when they're tiny and you never get any sleep and you're exhausted around the clock. You can't wait until they grow up a tiny bit and they can get up and make their own cereal or toast in the morning. You can't wait till they just don't need you at every hour. And then it feels like you blink and they don't need you at every hour. In fact, they can take baths and make their own cereal and drive themselves to school and do all the rest. And it feels like a stake to the heart.
It really, it does. And you want to shelter, you want to protect your kids. And it's hard to let go. And you talk a lot in the book about not only letting go, but about worrying about missing those important moments before they grow up and go away and don't want anything to do with you anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was something I hadn't fully grasped until I sat down to write this book. I've always had a big demanding job and I love what I do. I love my work. I obviously also love my family, and there are times when those two things coexisted beautifully, and then there were times, many times, where they came into direct conflict and you have to be in two places at once. And I think the thing when I sat down and really reflected and wrote about it that I realized was on the really big decisions, I mostly got it right. I like to think most of us, not everyone listening to this will be a parent, but we've all experienced that thing where you need to be in two places at once and you can't, so you make a choice for better or worse. On the really big calls, I got it right. The big birthdays. the big graduation ceremonies, the, championship games or the starring role in the play, all of that. I got it right. What I looked back and hadn't realized was slipping away was the moments that are not so black and white, the big ones that you can put in your calendar a few months out. It's all the accretion of all the little choices. All the games that weren't that big a deal. All the pool parties that I wasn't there because I was, somewhere in the field reporting for NPR. All the little things, all the bacon cookies in our kitchen when the kids were in footy pajamas padding around getting flour everywhere, and it was the babysitter in the kitchen and not me. And the accretion of all those smaller choices, it sounds very obvious, but that adds up to the life you're choosing to live, the things you're choosing to prioritize and spend your time on. And it didn't hit me at the time because it seemed like there would be so many mornings where there would be baking cookies or making pancakes in the kitchen, or there would be so many sports games to show up to. But kids grow up, and suddenly, middle school slides into high school, and 9th grade slides into 10th, slides into 11th, and suddenly they don't want to bake cookies with mom in the kitchen, whether I'm there or not. And that was what really hit home and caused me to think very carefully, okay, how did I get to this point? What choices do I make? And let me sit with this.
Well, and you really encapsulate this. You've got a phrase in the book, in the time we have left. You use this all the time. Yes. At work. We use it here at the radio station, to let people know we've got a minute left. We've got to get it in.
Got to land this plane, yeah.
Right. You talk about this phrase, "I'm raising kids," and in that time you have left, and that's what you're talking about. But I thought about this. Isn't this true about every point in our lives? Shouldn't we be saying that every day? Isn't every day, shouldn't we make it special? Shouldn't it be special, those little tiny moments?
Absolutely. Wouldn't that be nice if we could all figure that out? Right? It is something I say on air all the time when I'm interviewing somebody live and we have a minute left or 30 seconds left, and I'm trying to signal to them, I need you to be brief and wrap this up. I'm also trying to signal to our audience listening, this is not me being rude. I've given this person fair warning, but I don't have any wiggle room here. I gotta end the interview. So I use that all the time, and when you apply it to your family, it certainly takes on a different meaning. And I don't know that I look back and regret specific choices so much as thinking, it's today is what we've got. And I find myself with my children feeling that so strongly. They are both, since I've finished writing this book, they've both left the nest. They've gone to college, and they're already on to, okay, what should I do after college? What's the job application process? Grad school? What should I be looking at? And I just want to say, just enjoy this moment, this one right now, the one you have today, because you're never going to get college back. Live it, enjoy it. Leave the worrying about the next thing, maybe till tomorrow. You could push it to tomorrow. It's easier to say to somebody else than to live it yourself.
That is so true. So true. You write about your kids. You also write about your father in the book, how much you miss him.
Yeah.
And how you miss him when you least expect it. I think this is something anyone can relate to. I had a friend whose mother died. She told me she didn't cry for 6 months, and then one day she was making soup and just started crying and couldn't stop and couldn't figure out why. You had a similar experience in a hair salon. I think everybody faces this when they lose somebody. Can you talk about that?
I thank you so much for this question. As you and I are speaking today, actually would have been my dad's 79th birthday. And we lost him 4 years ago. And I woke up this morning and it hit me all over again. The thing I wrote about in the book was when it was all still relatively raw and fresh within a year of having lost him in 2021. And I think I had prepared for the milestone moments. What would the first Thanksgiving be like without him? What would the first birthday be like, when his birthday? What would the first Father's Day be like? And they were tough, but I knew they would be, and I got through them. But it was these moments when I wasn't thinking about him at all. And I remember so clearly going to my hair salon, which my dad had never visited. He could not have told you the name of my salon, where it was. It had nothing to do with him. And I'm in the chair discussing what I want my longtime hairdresser to do that day. And I just suddenly started weeping. And I realized this man, my hairdresser, who, as I say, I've seen for a dozen years, but I've never seen him outside the salon. But he's running his hands through my hair, discussing options. And his hands were so kind. And his voice was kind. And it was a deep man's voice. And I think it hit me. I'm discussing this haircut, and the last time I saw my dad alive, it was with this hair. That's what he was looking at. And he's never going to see the next haircut. And he's never going to see me growing old. And I think I was discussing, like, do I cover up my gray roots? And thinking, Dad's never going to see me with gray hair. Life marches on and Dad isn't here. And it was just such a moment of this little knife of grief slashing out. And I collected myself and, asked for a cup of tea, and we got the haircut done, and I walked out and felt so much better. And just thought, okay, that was a moment. Hi, Dad.
Wow, and I'm so glad you're able to share that in the book, because how wonderful, that so many people can relate to that.
Yeah.
And in the time we have left, less than a minute, why should people read the book?
Why should people read the book? I hope, as I say, I wanted to write 1 year in real time in my family, and I chose my oldest son's senior year because it was the last year that my family was all going to be guaranteed to live together under one roof. And I wanted to reckon with those choices. And I hope that it would resonate with anyone who picks this up. I realize not everyone reading this book has kids. Not everybody has a high school senior. But as I say, I think we've all felt this moment where two things we love, two things that define us, come into conflict with each other. I was wrestling with trying to be a good mom and trying to be good at my job, and the many, many ways and many days that I failed at that, but also a few of the days where I got it right. I don't have an answer to some of the questions that I pose in the book, but I have found there is solidarity and grace in sharing. Not a single one of us has figured out some of these things, and we're all doing our best. And that, in and of itself, on the good days, gives me hope.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the conversation.
As do I. Thank you so much for great questions. It was a pleasure being with you.
We've been speaking with All Things Considered host Mary Louise Kelly about her best-selling book titled It Goes So Fast, The Year of No Do-Overs, which is coming out in paperback. I'm Samantha Wright, filling in for Jim Gaudette. This is Idaho Matters.
And thanks so much for listening to Idaho Matters from Boise State Public Radio. Do you have thoughts about today's episode? Make sure you email us at idahomatters@boisestate.edu or reach out on our socials. And if this episode meant something to you, text it to a friend.
Each story you hear on Planet Money starts with a question. What happens if we refund tariffs? Why are groceries so expensive? At NPR, we stand for your right to be curious, because the forces shaping our world can be hard to see. Follow NPR's Planet Money wherever you get your podcasts and start seeing how the economy really works.